Go. 1842! It was a wild ride on the chronofunnel, TM. All psychedelic, like the end of Behind a Green Door. Or what was that Doris Wishman one? Satan Was a Lady. Yeah. It was more like that in 2001. There wasn't any sex in that chocolate box nonsense, was there? For the unenlightened, this means sprawling luminous washes of oil emulsion on vistas of green and purple with disembodied voices piping out of nowhere, and then a sudden rushing noise and a stroboscopic refraction that switches on the rods and the cones fire anyway, the synapses burst, flowery summary, the gentle spray in your face, you walk past a fountain with a bird song, the spray dries on your face, you glimpse a flash out of the corner of your eye, her name you can't look like, she looks at her hand, the radiance is too lovely, you look at her hand, she's holding a £20 note, it isn't the Queen, it's the other side. It's some Victorian twat with a bastard. With a bastard, a beard. It's some Victorian bastard with a beard. Alright? It's Charles Dickens. Alright, I'll give him the game away. His head gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, filling my field of vision. All the little etching lines getting and resolving themselves. Natural hues of cyan, more human pigments. A quick zoom backwards. Like Roy Scheider in Jaws. Yes! I know where I fucking was. With a bearded cunt as large as life on the podium in front of me in some kind of wood-panelled hall filled with folks, mostly blokes, in period costumes. There was a big diagram of some kind hanging on the screen behind him. Chaz was pretty worked up. He was railing and thumping the podium. His notes jumped up. He swept them off to the floor in disgust. Then the sound kicked in. I was about to say that Shakespeare derives some of his plots from the old tales and legends in general circulation. But it seems to me that some of you gentlemen of your craft at the present day have shot very far beyond him. It was ugly. He was rolling away, bits of spit were coming out, and he was sticking in his beard. He had nose hair coming out of his ears and nose like they had in those days, and then there was a lanky bastard in a stovepipe hat. He jumped up on the front from the front row, and he did some ejaculating of his own. You're quite right, sir, he said in a weird Yankee accent. Human intellect, sir, has progressed since time. Is progressing. Will progress. Chas was having none of it. Yeah. Shot beyond him, I mean, he resumed, in quite another respect. For whereas he has brought within his magic circle of his genius traditions peculiarly adapted for his purpose, turned familiar things into constellations, which should enlighten the world for ages. But you drag your magic circle of your dullness, subjects not at all adapted to the purposes of the stage, and you debase the books that are living horses, fresh from the hands, wet from the press, cut, hack, carve! Carve them to the powers and capacities of your actors, and the capability of your theatres. Finish unfinished works, hastily, crudely vamp up your ideas, not yet worked out by the original projector, but which doubtless have cost him many thoughtful days and sleepless nights by a comparison of incidents and dialogues down to the very last word he may have written, a dialogue a fortnight before. Do your utmost to anticipate the plot. All of this without permission, against his will. Then, to crown the whole proceeding, publishing some mean pamphlet, an unmeaning farrago of garbled extracts from his work to which your name is author, with the honourable distinction annexed of having perpetrated 100 of outrages of the same description. Now show me the distinction between such pilfering as this and picking a man's pocket. Show me the fucking distinction! Unless it be that the legislator has a regard for people's handkerchiefs and leaves men's brains, except where they are knocked out by violence to fend for themselves. Eh? Is that it? The hall erupted into uproar. Witty punters started throwing their snot rags onto the stage, but a few hit the mark. Chaz moved to one side of the podium, so he stood exposed. Making come and have you go if you think you're hard enough gestures with both hands. Occasionally flicking a V sign as well, but I didn't mention that in the fucking book, did I? Fucking censorship. Anyway, I was standing at the back. I could make out the open door behind me as it started to kick off. If it starts to kick off and go stale. Beyond... I pulled out my piece to be on the safe side. A strapping youth in a comedy exaggerator. Fuck this.